and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay. Well, money in politics. Who doesn't love it? Who doesn't like to talk about it? I found this segment to be very interesting because it aired on BS DNC of all places. And Harper was interviewed on being offered a whopping $20 million by a donor to challenge Rashida Tlaib. Now, we talked about this on the post-duopoly show yesterday with Stu Dissidents and Revolutionary Blackout Network in regards to how AIPAC is reaching out to individuals to run against the squad. Now, we've all given our fair share of criticism towards the squad, but I just want to say this to the progressives who carried water for the squad and the squad members themselves. People gave you a heads up just how corrupt the Democratic Party was. Now, I think in 2018, when Justice Democrats' brand new Congress, Our Revolution came around, I thought there was potential. It looked like a good idea. That was a mistake because you can't reform something that is completely corrupt. The DNC has made it abundantly clear. We all know it. We all see it. And when you step out of line, even if you are a good, obedient player of the game, 1 minute you step out of line, the DNC and its donors will kick you to the curb. This isn't open for debate. It is a fact. The same thing applies to the Republican establishment, too. So let's play this video. I want to give a huge shout out to Case Study QB, who is wrongly being censored. Let's go ahead and play this video. I was surprised this even aired on television for the American people to see. And look, I mean, there's a lot to take away from this video, but what I found interesting is Harper says, I can't believe that this is happening in our system. Money in politics. Yes, this is like in a movie. Corruption running amok. And AIPAC's not the only one. There's the oil lobby. There's the prison industrial complex, big pharma, the healthcare insurance industry, and more.
The vitriol against the only Palestinian member of Congress, Palestinian-American member of Congress, Rashida Tlaib, is at such a fever pitch that a Michigan businessman named Lyndon Nelson allegedly offered Democratic Senate candidate Harper $20 million to drop out of the race and run against Tlaib instead. That is according to Harper. Nelson has a history of involvement with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, a group directly targeting Tlaib. But the committee told Politico it was, quote, absolutely not involved in any way in this matter, adding that their records indicate that Nelson has not contributed to AIPAC in over a decade. Nelson didn't respond to our requests for comment. Harper, an author and actor, said, quote, I'm running to be a voice for the people. I will not be bought or bossed or bullied. I'm not going to run against the only Palestinian American in Congress just because some special interests don't like her.
Now, that sounds great. All the best to you, but he's going to talk about his Senate run, and pretty much he's going to give it away here. Spoiler alert, that he's been told that, nope, there's not going to be any money for you. Running in the Democratic Party is a fool's errand, but it's a rarity that you see some integrity in this political system. It's a rarity where you see somebody say, hey, money in politics, this is a bad idea. What exactly is going on? Because it is all too clear that corporate money, lobby groups, special interest groups control our entire system. He who has the most money has the loudest voice. How are we a democracy or a republic again? Hello, Bueller?
Harper, Democratic candidate for the United States Senate in Michigan, joins me now. Harper, thank you so much for being here. I want to start just by asking you, walk us through how this offer occurred.
Okay. Hey, Joy. I was driving to Pontiac for a grassroots fundraiser that definitely wasn't going to raise $20 million. And the phone rings, and while I'm driving, I get a call that makes it very clear that in my race, in my Senate race, my opponent was going to get fundraising, and there was no money for me in that. But if I dropped out of that race against an opponent they support, he said there would be $10 million in soft money, independent expenditure money, and then there would be an effort to raise the same on the hard side for if I was to run against Congresswoman Tlaib. And
Hey, it's a rarity where I could say, all right, you got some integrity and you're calling it out. But, it's just going to say this. It's probably a good thing you didn't take that money because you don't know what kind of strings are attached to it because there's no such thing as a free lunch. I'm sorry, folks. It doesn't exist. Someone offers you that amount of money. It means you're going to start playing ball. You won't be a free person at all. Now, we live in a country where legalized bribery is A-OK. Thank you, Supreme Court of the United States. All you Supreme Court justices, thank you for opening up the floodgates for anybody to buy a politician. And that means anybody, not just U.S. businessmen, but also overseas as well, because dark money is flowing in, and Democratic politicians and Republican politicians are more than happy to eat it up, smile, and give a middle finger to the American people.
And I was taken aback. I was shocked by that. I said, I said no, but this isn't about this just one call and one wealthy donor. It's about the system that allows for that type of influence, and that's what really I think angers me, and that's why folks were. You pull back the veil. It's almost like out of a movie, right? You get a call, and people don't know that that's happening, and then you have to wonder how many candidates are bought, and how many people are out of office because they've been targeted and money's used as the weapon.
First time. We've been talking about this for a very, very, very long time. Like at the point to where I'm just burnt out by it. Yes. Is this your first time talking about politics or money in politics? Because I got some stories to tell you, buddy. I got some fantastic friends that would love to regale you with the amount of times they've seen corrupt politicians and corrupt elections take place. I know it's a shocker. When I just find it great that people are waking up to it, but it's just like, again, first time hearing about this.
There is some reporting from MLive, which is a Michigan local paper, that another candidate and prominent Arab American community leader named Nasser Bayun says that he has also been approached. He was approached by a former Michigan Democratic Party chair named Lon Johnson with an identical offer in a November 10 meeting. The money would have come via the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Johnson denied Bayun's claims, saying to Politico, "That's just crazy. I didn't offer him $20 million or any other amount of money to run against Rashida. That's insane." AIPAC spokesperson Marshall Whitman said the organization has absolutely no involvement in any way with these matters. Have you heard of anything like that? Do you know Nasser Bayun? Have you heard of anyone else being offered money to run against Rashida Tlaib?
No, I don't. I do know Nasser, and I don't know if that's true or not. I can't speak to that. But I can speak to the idea and the fact that our system is set up that allows calls like this to happen because clearly they're effective. I mean, 93% of federal candidates that raise the most money win. And when we think about how much money is in all these areas, because it's not just about AIPAC, it's about the 60% of Americans believe that there should be sensible gun control laws, yet it never passes. The NRA, the gun lobby is very powerful. Just think about, I live here in Detroit, Joy, and 10 minutes across a bridge into Canada, prescription drug costs for many life-saving drugs are 50% less, and folks want something done about that.
Yeah. Speaking of Canada, it wasn't too long ago where the American people could actually cross the border into Canada and buy lower cost drugs. No, I kid you not. It was something that could be done. However, when our politicians caught wind of this, for the good of the American people, they made it illegal to protect you. Because you should spend your money here in America with those same drugs that you purchase here at the high cost. Our politicians care about us, don't they? Hey, this isn't the first time our politicians worked against us. As soon as we as citizens were able to find a cheaper, more effective, cost-effective way for us to get on by in this world that is understandably out of our control. Hill Harper, first time? I remember this election cycle that took place in 2016 where this guy, Bernie Sanders, I don't know what really became of him. He was kind of talking about this until the DNC gave him a few slaps upside the head and he became a cuck.
Yet Big Pharma spends over $373 million in 2022 on political candidates and independent expenditure. And so the problem is actually the way our system is set up that allows money to corrupt our system, that gets us away from actually representing people and representing lobbyists. I'm running to not represent a lobby. I want to empower the people, not lobbyists.
What would you...
Then you're going to have a very short career in Washington, D.C. Bless your heart. I like you, man. You're saying some things I want to hear. But you know what? DC's not going to have you in because you can't play ball. You're not corrupt enough. You're not too much of a criminal to be working in Washington, D.C. Now, of course, people can say, well, what about George Santos? Well, George Santos went too far. He is like Icarus. He flew too close to the sun. And he's kind of revealing just how all of our politicians truly are. Take away their fancy aids and their little masks that they put on, and they're all like George Santos. Okay, George Santos is the true avatar of Congress. That's how all of them really are.
Do as a United States Senator, because you make a very good point that President Obama made and angered a certain Supreme Court justice named Samuel Alito in saying it, that the Supreme Court greenlit the idea of unlimited money in politics. What could be done, in your view, in the United States Senate to change that?
Well, I'm a massive proponent for campaign finance reform. I don't think that any election should be longer than 6 months outside the presidency. I think that you shouldn't be able to raise over $100,000 with a $100,000 public match, for instance, and then the rest has to be volunteer driven. If you're actually running to represent people, then you should be able to actually speak to people's hearts and minds and get them involved in your campaign, because what the Senate should be and what the House of Representatives should be and our Congress should be an institution of service of the people's will. And right now, our representatives federally are not serving the people's will. They're serving the will of big corporate interest and moneyed interest. Whether
it's almost like Harlan Zmead has been talking about that for years now. Like Jimmy Dore has been talking about that for years. Convo Couch, Nico House, Due Dissidents, Revolutionary Blackout Network. The list goes on and on and on. Yes, I'll even bring in TYT and Majority Report. Yeah, they talked about it too. There you go. But yes, wake up, my fellow Americans. You think you have the seat at the table? George Carlin is probably doing this huge musical in heaven right now. It's called I Told You So. And he's laughing and pointing at us saying, hey, I told you, Jagoffs, this was going to happen. They want you to be smart enough to run the machines, but dumb enough never to ask any questions about why. It's one big club, and you ain't in it. You don't have a seat at the table. And I know we're going to be dealing with the 2024 election cycle. So to my diehard Democratic voters, to my diehard Republican voters who think their vote really makes a difference and that you're going to have a seat at the table if your guy makes it into the White House, the answer is no. You're only participating. Goldman Sachs has a seat at the table. Wall Street has a seat at the table. Hedge funds have a seat at the table. Lobby groups have a seat at the table. You, the average guy and gal in America, do not. I am so, so sorry. But it doesn't have to be this way. There's still hope. I know, the audacity of hope.
Whether it's big oil, whether it's big pharma, whether it's the NRA or institutions like that, or even just individual wealthy donors like Harlan Crow. When you think about money and how it's actually corrupted even our Supreme Court. Look at that Eighth Circuit Court ruling last week that gutted the Voting Rights Act. I mean, you're talking about, they quoted my Harvard Law School classmate Neil Gorsuch, both appointed by Trump. These are people that there's moneyed interest behind promoting a certain ideology, behind promoting certain politics. And I think that's why we're not seeing problems being solved by our representatives.
I think you're going to get a lot of amens on that. Way too much money in politics, way too many big donors, billions.
Hold on. Case study. I love that you kept that in there because this might have flew by you. Some of y'all watching this, but notice how she's looking around like, uh-oh, she's probably getting yelled at by the producer in the ear. Like, get him off the air. Get him off the air. You do realize that corporations control BSD and C. Look at this. Hold on.
Classmate Neil Gorsuch, both appointed by Trump. these are people that there's moneyed interest behind promoting a certain ideology, behind promoting certain politics. And I think that's why we're not seeing problems being solved by our.
Blink 2 more times if you need help. Read, if you need help, blink twice.
Representatives.
Okay.
I think you're going to get a lot of amens on that. Way too much money in politics. Way too.
Okay. She's that eye looking back like there's probably a producer just doing this. Be quiet.
Too many big donors, billionaires, et cetera, controlling our politics. U.S. Senate candidate Hill Harper, please come back and let's talk more about getting this money out of the system.
Why are you looking that way? Why are you looking that way? You getting a wrap it up signal? You seen a producer get foaming at the mouth, getting angry? Because let's face it, the quiet part is being said out loud.
I think that is a very important conversation. Let's have it again. Thank you for being here.
So what's the overall conclusion? The overall conclusion is money in politics. It's all too real. Our politicians are owned by special interest groups. Our politicians are owned by individuals who do not like us, do not think about us, do not respect us. Right now, they will say some supercharged things that will trigger at our emotions. But at the end of the day, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and all the people associated with those two groups are friends. The same people who donate to Democrats donate to Republicans. Same people who donate to Republicans donate to Democrats. Same Bankman-Fried. Remember him? FTX, big old scandal with e-currency and so much more. He donated to Democratic politicians openly, but he also, on the side, donated to Republican politicians. He's not the only one who plays that game. There's a lot of special interest groups that like to, well, make sure that they cover all their bases because these politicians can be bought. In fact, it's kind of embarrassing how cheap some of these politicians can be. But that's politics here in America, and the Supreme Court opened the gate. So if you're a diehard Democratic voter and diehard Republican voter, please explain to me, what's your guy, what's your party going to do to make a difference? Because the only way we can make a change is through citizen ballot initiatives, calling for the abolition of all political parties and having a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics before all is truly lost. We got to fight up. We got to start pushing back. And Hill Harper, congratulations. You have integrity. You will not have a career in Washington, D.C., and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that is a good thing for you.